Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another YouTube video. I have my friend here, and he's just staring at me. So, I'm going to be... It's been a while. I know it's been a while, and I apologize. It's just been very busy. At my other YouTube channel, I had to make a sword in 5 days. I'm making a video about that today, if you want to go check it out. But anyways, so I was on Netflix the other night because I was bored of college. College can be boring. And I saw this one movie, and I remember seeing the trailer for it, and it's called, you might have heard of it, The Pope's Exorcist. And I saw that movie, and I saw the trailer, and I immediately knew it was going to be one of those movies that I wasn't going to like. But, you know, I wanted to give it a chance because I like exorcism movies. I think they can be good, but I haven't seen a good exorcism movie before in, I think, my entire life. The exorcism movie that everyone thinks of is the actual movie The Exorcist, and that's probably the most accurate that they've gotten, and it's still terrible. Hollywood tends to ruin a lot of things, and that was one of those movies. In my opinion, if they just followed the actual case of the exorcism, it would have been fine, but they didn't. They had that scene of the guy, the main priest, just like jumping out a window and killing himself. That's how they ended the movie. It's just, it felt taped on, and that's not how exorcisms go. Hence why I'm making this video, because I recently watched that movie thinking, hey, Russell Crowe's in here. I like Russell Crowe as an actor. I think this movie has a chance. And I was proven wrong once again. It was not a good movie, and hence why I'm making this video. I wanted to talk about exorcism movies in general, but also specifically this one as an example. And talking about, I think it would be interesting, coming from a Catholic, I am a Catholic, how exorcisms actually work and what Catholics actually believe when it comes to exorcisms, because unfortunately a lot of movies get it wrong, and it makes, to be honest, it makes our faith look kind of dumb. It really does, and it's a little bit offensive, but I think it's kind of funny, I have to be honest. So let's get into it. So starting off the opening scene of this movie, The Pope's Exorcist, you see the Russell Crowe character. I think his name in the movie is Father Amur, I think. Am I wrong? Father, I can't remember his name, which is kind of a problem anyways. So the Russell Crowe character goes in, and this is one kid who's like possessed, and basically how the exorcism goes. You know what? I'm putting the cart before the horse. How about I explain what actually happens in an exorcism before I even go into this? So what normally actually happens with an exorcism, at least what Catholics believe. I don't want to feel like I'm forcing people to believe in Catholicism in this. I just want to simply put out there what Catholics actually believe happen in exorcisms. So when a person gets possessed, what actually happens is it's not just something that instantly happens. It's something that kind of happens gradually over time. For example, it's like a series of yeses, right? So the person is like denying God. It's a series of them saying yes to the demon or to the devil. For example, maybe the person starts using a lot of swear words. The F word specifically is a horrible swear word, and that's a big one. Maybe the person starts using a Ouija board, which is actually how the Exorcist case, the actual case for the Exorcist movie, happened. Was the girl was trying to communicate to one of her relatives who recently died through a Ouija board, and that's how the demon got into her life. That's interesting. If they actually made it based off of that, and Hollywood wouldn't have ruined it. It would have been a cool movie, but can't have that in Hollywood. So that's normally what happens with an exorcism, is the person has a series of yeses, and finally, once the demon is welcomed into their life, that's when the demon takes over. And basically what happens to combat this is the person, of course, like they see that the person's hurting themselves. The first thing that someone would normally think is, oh, it's the person's like mentally ill, or maybe they're physically ill. So they take them to the doctors and they like do a bunch of tests. If the tests say that the person is perfectly rational, then they kind of bring a priest over, and that priest will do like certain tests to see if the person is actually possessed or not. Like maybe they'll like sprinkle water on them, and the demon will react as if it's holy water. I'm sorry, like the individual, I should say. The individual acts as if it's holy water, but it's not holy water. That is a sign that maybe the person is just mentally ill and that it's all in their head. Like, they do tests like that, so it's not the person's it makes it so that the priest isn't hurting the person any further if they are actually just mentally ill. If the person is actually possessed, what eventually happens is they go through another process where they bring in a exorcist from the diocese of where they are, and the priests go in there. They have to be in absolution. Would that be what it is? If you're, yeah, like free of sin, basically. And basically what that ensures is that the demon can't use your sins to like trick you. And that's like one of the things that normally happens in an exorcism, is the demon tries to trick you. And then the person goes in, and basically what it is it's like a series of prayers. And what the priests are trying to do essentially is get the demon's name. And once you get the demon's name, then you have complete control over that demon. The demon can't do anything. So then that's when they finally get the demon to get out of the person. But it's not all in one step, you see. It happens like gradually. Now, when it comes to exorcism movies, what tends to happen is people do not follow this protocol very much. For example, the Conjuring movie, where they have a random dude, the main character, do the exorcism. That is not how exorcisms work. You need a priest to do an exorcism. That's how that works. You can't just be any random person off the street to do an exorcism. You can do a lot of prayers to help the person, but you can't actually do the exorcism. You need a priest for that. So that's a good example of how movies don't follow that. So the opening scene of this movie is the Russell Crowe character goes into this house, and the parents' son is possessed, and he goes in and he starts talking to the person. The person says that they're possessed by the devil. And then the Russell Crowe character just goes, oh, if you're possessed by that, are you a powerful demon? It's like, yeah, I'm a powerful demon. It's like, oh, you're the most powerful demon? You can possess anyone you want? It's like, yeah, I can. It's like, all right, possess this pig, you won't. And then he possesses the pig, and then they shoot the pig. And the demon is exorcised. But that's not at all. My friend's laughing. That's not what happens. That's not how any of that happens. So demons are not stupid, okay? You have to think, what is a demon? A demon is a fallen angel. Okay, so fallen angels know more about theology than anyone known today. So they're very smart individuals. They wouldn't just do that. Secondly, that's not how you get. That's not, even if that worked. If the demon possessed the pig, the demon's not gone now. You never got the demon's name. You never got. That's not how that works. It's just, gosh. And this is what movies do today, and it just makes no sense. And then it moves on to another scene of the Vatican, where the Russell Crowe priest walks into a meeting where the people arguably they have a good reason why they're kind of upset with them. They're like, hey, you did a exorcism without our permission, which is something that you need to do. You need to get permission to do an exorcism. That's something that's very important. Secondly, he used animal sacrifice. He killed that's not proper procedure. And they're like, hey, you didn't do the exorcism correctly, and you weren't even told to do an exorcism, so this isn't okay. And then for some reason, the Russell Crowe priest just immediately takes this as, oh, they don't believe in the devil. And it just seems to bounce around quite a bit, because that's not at all what they're saying. And the actual priest who's kind of fighting with the Russell Crowe character doesn't believe in the devil. So it's you disagree with both people here. For one thing, the Russell Crowe priest did not do an exorcism correctly. That's not how you do exorcisms. Secondly, he did it without their permission. So you kind of agree with the council here. But then again, you also agree with the Russell Crowe character, because he believes that the devil exists, which is one of the most basic things that we believe, is that the devil exists. He's the father of lies. He's the person who tempts us into sin. He's evil itself. That's one of the most basic things, and you agree with him, but you also disagree with him. So it's just are we supposed to agree with the main character? It's just I look at that scene and I'm I don't like either of these people. And then we have the scene where you have the family moving into this one, I think a castle in Spain. I couldn't really tell what it was. It was an old building in Spain, and basically their father just died, and this was this building was in the family, and they're trying to renovate it so they can get money. And for some reason, the boy, who's just kind of exploring, gets possessed, but it doesn't show like the step-by-step process that I was talking about, where it's a series of yeses that the person gets into. What I thought that they were going to do, they were setting it up where the one daughter of the mother in the house like was like swearing a lot. She was smoking. She was obviously like, it looked like what they were trying to set up was she was going through a series of yeses, and maybe that she was going to be the one who was possessed. And that would have been actually pretty good. I would have like been completely fine with that. But they weren't setting it up to do that. Instead, they were setting up for the younger boy for some reason, who had like, who was just being curious. I don't think that's how that would have gone necessarily. And like you see where like you think that they're trying to be creative, but in reality they're just being dumb. And it's kind of sad because you see like where this movie could have taken a cold turn and been a good movie, but instead what they do is this weird crap where it makes no sense, no logical sense in the realm of exorcisms. But despite that, okay, the boy gets possessed or whatever, and the construction workers at the time found like a gas leak, and they don't want to work on the house anymore, so they leave. And then they find out that the boy's possessed. They take the kid to the doctor. They find out that there's nothing wrong with him. They get a priest involved. The exorcist comes down. The Russell Crowe exorcist comes down. And for some reason, before the exorcist comes down, the one priest like local to the area tries going in there, and the demon immediately just throws him out of the room, which you need to. Okay, another thing about exorcisms that I want to explain is when someone's possessed, the demon is kind of like within the person, and demons do not like priests. They do not like priests because a priest is essentially a representation of Jesus, and very obviously, demons do not like God. That's very basic. Demons do not like Jesus. Okay, we can be very clear on that, right? Demons don't like God, right? That's kind of why they rebelled. Just want to make sure that's clear to everyone. And yeah, so it wouldn't just like throw him out of the room necessarily. Maybe like it would be like a step-by-step process, but the demon would have at least been like scared of him at first, right? Am I wrong in saying that? That's kind of how that goes.
Hey guys, so I was just like editing the video, and I thought I'd just like, put in a quick note of a story that my one friend, who is in fact a priest, told us of how this one time when three priests walked into a room, and how the person who was possessed like got confused. Like there was like three demons possessing this one person, and they were all conversing, trying to find out which one was Jesus, because they all like saw the priest as Jesus, but there's three priests, so it was confusing the demon. So just another thing to prove the point that this is a very stupid scene.
Okay, so finally Russell Crowe gets there, and he does a confession with the one priest, or no, beforehand he like kind of investigates it, and like the demon's kind of like using his like past experiences in World War II to try and like trick him and like getting him distracted, and that's pretty good actually. That's what demons normally do, is they use like your past and like they try and trick you, make you discouraged. That's what normally happens in an exorcism. So that part's actually pretty good. Another part is that the exorcist, the Russell Crowe exorcist, was like joking around with him, and it's like, I know you, like the demon's like, oh, I know your biggest fear, and he's like, oh yeah, my biggest fear is France winning the World Cup. That's funny. That's cool. I like that. So you see scenes like that, and you're like, oh, this movie has hope to be a good movie. But then they stray away from it, and they do all this weird crap, and it makes no sense. And then finally, the Russell Crowe exorcist goes to the other priest, and they're like, okay, let's do this exorcism. And another cool scene that they have is like they show that the local priest isn't like necessarily a faithful priest. It shows that like he hasn't gone to confession in 8 months. Also that he was like struggling with like sexual sins and stuff like that. And I thought that was actually a good scene. I think that was well executed. It shows some like the problems that we have in the culture where like we have a lot of weak priests. I think that's pretty cool. And it also shows when they're doing the exorcism how the demon is using those past experiences to kind of trick the priest into like stopping the exorcism. And I think that was clever. But then they start like exploring, and like they find all this stuff about like the Spanish Inquisition that like had to do with the house. They found this like, underground like catechism for some reason. Catacomb, sorry, not the catechism. This is the catechism, and this is basically the rule book of the Catholic Church. No, they found a catacomb, which is, if you don't know what that is, it's basically like a burial ground for like Christians. It was a very old burial ground, and for some reason it had something to do with the Spanish Inquisition, where like for some reason, according to them, the church was basically just slaughtering a bunch of heretics. Now, I don't want to say anything about this because I personally haven't done my research. I'm sure that there's something to be said about that, but I don't want to get too political with this, so we're just going to continue. But eventually they find the demon's name when they find like this one journal, and now that they have the demon's name, based off of the explanation that I gave about how exorcisms work, now that you have the name of the demon is powerless. It can't do anything. But for some reason in this movie, now that they have the demon's name, they're still struggling to like get the demon out of the boy. But that's not how that works. Once you have the demon's name, it's completely powerless. It can't do anything. You have full control over the demon. But for some reason in this movie, that's not how that works. And I don't quite understand that. And so basically, finally they get the demon out of the boy. And quote unquote, they get the demon out of the boy. And then, so they had this whole scene where the priests were praying. They're doing the exorcism prayer. They had the sister and the mom of the boy praying, doing like the Hail Mary, which is, by the way, another person that the demons hate is our Mother Mary. She is the Queen of Heaven and Earth. She's basically the incarnation of Christ, thy son. They hate her. Okay, basically, that's all you need to know. They don't like Mary. And they even had a scene where like the demon like says some profanities about Mary. So obviously they know this in the movie. They point it out. They take time to point out that Mary is not liked by the devil. But for some reason, the sister who was just praying the Hail Mary was like, she just comes out and goes, I was possessed this whole time. And I'm like, you were just praying the Hail Mary. Demons hate Mary. Demons would not be praying the Hail Mary. Even if it's a trick, they would not. They would refuse to do that. So it makes no sense. And for some reason, she turns into like Spider Lady. She's just crawling around the walls and stuff like that. I'm like, what is happening anymore? And then she starts attacking the mom. The local priest, who's like about to go help her. And do you know what the purple rag that they put around the neck? Do you know what that's called? It has a name. I don't know what it's called. I don't know either. But basically, there's this one purple rag that priests put around their necks, and they do that for confession and also for exorcisms. I don't know if it's the same thing, so I don't want to. Geez, as you can see, there's a lot to the faith, and yeah. But basically, the demon who's now possessed by the boy again just goes, the force, and he just like uses the rag and he like chokes the priest. He's just floating there. Getting choked by the rag. And they're just like, oh, okay, that's not how exorcisms normally happen. And then the other priest, the Russell Crowe priest, is like, I'm gonna get you. And then like he just also used the force on him, and he's just into the like forces him into the wall. And all this basically ends when the Russell Crowe priest, and I've mentioned the Exorcism movie, how that ended, where the priest was like, take me instead, and then he gets possessed and then jumps out the window and dies. And how that is not how exorcisms normally work. You get the demon out of the person through methods of asking it to leave, basically, after you get its name and you order it to leave in the name of God. But how they did it was the Russell Crowe was like, oh, you take me instead, and you let all these people go. And I'm like, that's not how that works. So he gets possessed. And then all the other people are like let go, and then they like get out of the house. And the Russell Crowe character is now possessed. And basically the demon's plan was to possess Russell Crowe, priest, so that he could corrupt the Vatican. And I'm like, okay, fine. But also, what? And so the Russell Crowe priest has like a little bit of control left, and he tries, and like once again I want to explain what actually, like, not exorcism, possession is you say a series of yeses. The Russell Crowe priest didn't go through that series of yeses. He just gets possessed. So it's like, once again, they're breaking that law of exorcisms. Anyways, so he's like trying to kill himself so that the demon can't control him. And I just want to let everyone know that suicide is a sin. So, like, you can choose how you look at that. So you see how this is a problem, right? Like, this isn't just me. What is happening? Why is he? Oh, geez. Anyways, so basically the Russell Crowe priest goes right back down into, like, the catacombs or whatever. And, like, the resident priest, like, comes back to try and, like, help him. And they have this, like, I can only explain it as a wizard battle in the caves where they're all flying around and, like, zapping each other with magic. That's I'm not kidding. This is how it went. There's, like, flames, there's, like, yellow light shooting around, they're floating, they're flying around. This is how it went. And I'm just like, what is happening? And, like, for some reason, like, the Russell Crowe priest, like, when he's possessed, his mouth just extends. I'm like, what is this? No. Just no. What is happening? And I'm just, like, looking at this, and I'm like, what the frick? This is not how exorcisms work. They know it's not, like, wizard and magic. For the most part, you don't see much. You see, like, a painting fall off a wall or, like, a crucifix flying across the room. But, you know, for most exorcisms are just like a person screaming on a bed as they're trying to get the demon out of them. That's how it looks normally. They're not flying around like wizards from Harry Potter. Like, what is this? I'm like, this is an outrage. And I'm just looking at this. I'm like, and like, oh, geez. And, like, this demon's attacking the one priest. He, like, puts a St. Benedict medal to, like, the demon's head, and it explodes into blood. I'm like, what? Explain to me this. What? He did what in this church? What? Just like, what happened? And finally, like, they just, like, get the demon out through a bunch of prayer and brotherhood, and they finally get the demon out of the guy, and then they banish it to hell. I'm like, at least it's over, right? Oh, geez. Thank God they're not going to make a sequel. That would be bad. Yeah, so it ends. By the way, for some reason, like, when they were losing the exorcism battle, the Pope in the Vatican was dying. I'm like, that's not. The Pope was dying? Like, he's in the hospital bed? And I'm like, how these people, like, it's like they saw King Arthur and saw, like, when King Arthur was, like, dying because he wasn't getting, like, because the other knights were losing, and they thought that's how Christianity went. It's like, this is not how Christianity works at all. What is happening? Why is the Pope dying? What? And finally, they go back to the Vatican, and, like, the one, like, cardinal at the, like, the church is like, it's like that one scene in Marvel whenever, like, Nick Fury sits down Iron Man, and it's just like, you live in a bigger world than you could possibly imagine. And it's just like, that's basically what just happens. The cardinal sits to him and, like, the one other priest who was from Spain, by the way. So it's like, oh, pretty far away from Italy. And for some reason, he just came back with them because he obviously doesn't have a job back in Spain. And the cardinal's like, yeah, you're part of a bigger world than you could possibly explain. I think that's actually what he said, too. It's like, you're part of a bigger world than you could possibly imagine. I'm like, it's Nick Fury. It's just... And then basically they're like, all right, this is our job now. There's like 199 other places just like that, and it needs your help. And I'm just like, you're not making a sequel. You're not making a sequel out of this. This is like the worst exorcism movie I have seen. And here's why. It shows good. It's like, it does some things that, like, I'm glad that it did, but that's why I hate it more. Because it has scenes where you're like, oh, this could be a good movie. But then they they show you that, like, they knew how to make a good movie, but then they, like, throw that out the window. Like, it's like they show it in front of you. It's like, hey, this is what you wanted to see. Sorry. Instead, you got this movie. There's a scene when they're, like, down in the catacombs, wherever, like, the Russell Crowe character is, like, struggling. He's, like, being taken over by the demon. And there's a scene of, like, the Virgin Mary coming to see him. And, like, it gets down on his knees. I'm like, oh, okay. At least something's happening. Okay, they bring Mary in here. She's going to take the demon. She's going to take care of this. This is cool. And then she turns into a demon. And I'm like, oh, so you did this. It's just like you show scenes where like people like it's like they knew how to make the movie, but then like they didn't follow that script. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh god, that's the most painful part of it. Is you see like where it could be like actually a decent movie and like a, but then they just follow this weird thing where they have like wizards flying around. Ugh. Like people need to, it's like it's hard for people to understand the spiritual world. It's hard for them to understand that because it's like we're used to the physical world, right? Like physical, like this book. So that's why like in a lot of like fantasy movies you have like magic that like shoots like stuff out of like the wand and stuff like that, so that people can understand it better. But the spiritual world is something like beyond the human eye. You know what I mean? It's beyond that. A lot of it you can't even see. So I don't know why. It's just, gosh. And they had the gall to set up for a sequel? I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say. They're making a sequel. I bet you they are. Right now, they're in the works. And I'm upset with the Russell Crowe actor. If you're watching this, I'm upset with you. Because I liked you until this moment. I liked Gladiator. That was one of my favorite movies that you're in. And I thought that you were like a responsible actor. You knew when a movie was bad and you knew when to stay away from it. Now I don't trust you, man. You went down the deep end. Like I'm sure you're a well-accomplished actor. You don't need the money. You should have seen this movie and knew that this was a bad idea. You should know better than that. I'm sorry. I just I don't know how to end this video. Like I don't know anymore. Oh, like it's geez. Oh man, it's not that hard to make a movie about exorcism. It can still be interesting without the people flying around. It can still be interesting, but for some reason, it's kind of offensive because like this is what Catholics believe. You know, it's like kind of why we live and all that stuff. And whenever they show like a movie like this where it like kind of like makes fun of what we believe in, it's kind of offensive. I have to be honest. It's very funny at the time, but now I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is very offensive. And it's just like, this is what people like live off of movies, right? They look at a movie like that's what reality is. Unfortunately, you got people like that. So, of course, whenever someone watches an exorcism movie about the Catholic Church being involved, they think that that's what we believe happens. So, of course, people are going to be like, "Oh man, the Catholic Church is so weird, man." I'm like, you're basing it off of a horrible movie. And it's like, geez, I don't even know what to say. Do you have anything to say? You want me to say anything to camera? No. Oh, geez. I guess I'm going to end this video here. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Comment what you think about the movie if you've seen it. Have a great day, and never watch that movie. I'm recommending don't watch the movie. Don't watch the sequel. We're going to bring this movie down. No one's going to watch the sequel. Right? Right. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Have a great day. God bless.